So if you get a piece of sandpaper, you will typically see that there's a number written on the back of it. This one, for example, is 150 grit. This one is 220 grit. Okay, so the number just means how rough the sandpaper is. The 150 grit is rougher. It has bigger sand particles on it. So this is what we start with. It starts to get all the machine marks out. It gets all the roughness out, any burn marks, gets that out really quickly because it's rough and it's more aggressive. Once we finish the 150 or a low grit sandpaper, we then shift up to a high like 220. It's a lot smoother. It's going to make your project feel nicer, but it's not going to get the flaws out. So that's why we need to do the rough stuff first, get the flaws out. The 220 then kind of smooths everything, makes it feel good, gets it ready for the finishing, the staining, polyurethaning, all that good stuff. So the other thing you should know about sandpaper, or sanding rather, is the different machines or methods of sanding. Okay, in the lab we have a square or a pad sander. We also have the round orbit sander. We also have sanding blocks where you can take a piece of sandpaper and wrap it around your block and sand by hand. Okay, so if I look at my actual project here, what I always start with is the edges and the ends of the project. Okay, you never use the palm sanders or machine sanders to do these edges. There's no way to keep it straight. You cannot keep it flat. And it's also not good for the sanders. So I always start by just taking a piece of the 150 grit, wrap it around the sanding block, hang the project over the side of the table, and I'm just going to go back and forth in the direction of the grain, getting out any machine marks, any flaws out of my project. If I would have a routed edge here, I would also take this in my hand and just kind of go around and sand those routes. For example, a round over, I'll just kind of match that curve as I go around. Once I finish the edges and the ends, I then go to my sander, either the pad sander or the orbital sander. If there's bad paper in here, you're going to take it out. So this one you just pop out the side here, loosen that up, grab your new piece, put it back in, slide it down, lock it in. When you use this pad sander, you want to make sure you're sanding in the direction of the grain. So if the grain lines are running this direction, I want to make sure I'm going in this same direction. So I would continue to do that until all my machine marks are out, any scratches are out of the project. I could also use this one instead. When you use this type of sander, it's not as critical which direction you sand because it is spinning in a circle. Okay, so it kind of helps to eliminate some of the swirl marks. But once I do the 150 sanding, I'm going to then switch to my 220, do my edges. So get your 220 sandpaper on your sanding block, go do your edges, the ends again, switch this out, put some 220 in here, do your faces. Okay, so pretty straightforward, but always know you start with the low grit, go up to the high grit. When you're sanding the edges and ends, you always do it by hand. When you're doing the surfaces, you always typically use the machines. It goes a little quicker.